This is the MSI GS75 8SG, which is a pretty interesting gaming laptop featuring an RTX 2080 Max-Q, similar to the Asus Zephyrus that I've already checked out, although this is the 17-inch model. And in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the good, the bad, and the ugly, and if it's actually worth your money or not. Now, of course, we have to start off with the good first, and for me, one of the best things about the laptop is its display. It's 144Hz, which means smooth and enjoyable gaming experiences, and it's twinned with G-Sync as well, which means an even smoother and more enjoyable gaming experience on top of the already great experience you get. And it has fantastic viewing angles and is really very nice visually. In terms of its color accuracy, it's not fantastic. It's a fairly standard TN measurement using the split display cal software and my Spider 5, but otherwise, at least to the eye anyway, it's rather beautiful, and as I said, also has great side-to-side viewing angles, as you can see here. The laptop's performance is another strong suit. Spec-wise, you've got an i7-8750H with 32 gigs of RAM in this 8SG model, and then you also have that RTX 2080 Max-Q. Now, as we've mentioned in previous videos, the 2080 Max-Q is a sort of stripped down, or at least a limited clock speed version of a 2080. So while it's still a full 2080 core, it's running at significantly lower clock speeds and memory speeds than a, say, desktop card, or even just a much thicker gaming laptop. Now, this means that they're actually very configurable in terms of how much power the laptop manufacturer wants to allow that GPU to pull. In this case, it's set, I think, a fairly medium points. Obviously, it's a fairly thin laptop, as you can see, so you're not going to be getting, you know, kind of desktop levels of performance, but you still get some fantastic gaming results, as we can see here. Starting off with 3D Mark Firstrike, we have a very respectable score of 16,576. This compares really well to some other laptops in this category, so that's always great to see. In terms of Dirt Rally on ultra settings, obviously at 1080p, we're looking at 123 FPS average with a minimum of 85 and a maximum of 187, so very smooth here. Unit in Heaven is much more of a benchmark than it is a game. In fact, it's not a game at all, so the minimums and maximums are a little bit misleading, but the average of 163 is definitely a good score to beat. In terms of PUBG, again on ultra settings, we're looking at 106 FPS average, which again is nice and smooth and matches well with the 144Hz display, with good minimums and maximums to go with it. Fortnite is actually a little bit higher, 123 FPS, with again very smooth minimums and maximums, and again a very enjoyable overall gaming experience, especially on this 144Hz display. And a newcomer in the benchmark scene, Apex Legends, was running at 111 FPS average, again on basically everything maxed out, with a minimum of 70 and a maximum of 145. So again, a very smooth and very enjoyable gaming experience, basically across the board here. It's actually very similar in terms of performance to the Asus Zephyrus 15-inch model that I looked at recently, although as Linus has mentioned in his reviews of this and the 17-inch Zephyrus, the 17-inch Zephyrus is a little bit of a faster machine thanks to its extra space and cooling performance. Now, bringing it back to the good points here, we have to add styling on this list. Now, of course, styling is very much personal preference, but for me, I like this understated look with a slight gold accents. It's a little bit on the tacky side and a little bit on the sort of almost hipster aesthetic side of things, but for me, I do kind of like it. As I mentioned, you have gold trim aesthetics around the laptop, but for me, the nicest styling point is actually the gold vent kind of accent, as well as the sort of display stand points. Those are just the nicest looking parts of that for me. And while we're down looking at the vents, I should mention the I/O, which is actually on the good list as well. You have, in no particular order, USB Type-C, Thunderbolt 3, which is great to see, 3 USB 3 ports, an HDMI port, DC in, as well as headphone and microphone jacks, and a micro SD card reader. Now, that micro SD card reader I would like to see as a full size, just because if you were going to use this as a, say, Creator Professional laptop for, say, video editing, which it's more than capable of doing, or even photo editing, for example, it would be nice to see a full size, just, you know, for ease of use. But overall, it's still nice that it's there, even if it's not necessarily going to be as functional as others. Speaking of functionality, the speakers are actually something that I'm quite impressed with, at least for built-in laptop speakers anyway. They're more than passable for even relatively high volumes, and well, even if you do compare them to, say, a good set of desktop speakers or headphones, they will start to falter. Generally speaking, especially for built-in, they're actually pretty good. Sticking with the functionality side of things, the battery life is actually pretty good. You're looking at about 5 hours of kind of light web browsing, word processing type use, which for a laptop of this style and caliber actually isn't too bad. In terms of gaming, as usual, you get significantly reduced clock speeds and therefore significantly reduced performance, and you'll only be gaming for about an hour on battery if you really need to, but it is an option if you want it. And the final note of functionality that's on the good list is the keyboard, minus one cardinal sin I'll talk about in a second. Now, overall, the typing experience is actually pretty nice. It's fairly tactile, it's a little bit on the soft side, but the keys are fairly well stabilized, so they feel pretty good under your fingers, and especially on the gaming side of things, you're going to be pretty happy with this keyboard. You can actually customize a whole load of its functionality in the SteelSeries engine, which comes pre-installed on the laptop, as it's a sort of SteelSeries powered keyboard, as well as obviously all of the RGB effects that are also available to you, as it's a per key RGB backlit keyboard. The one cardinal sin that kind of dips our toes into the bad list is that the FN key and the Windows key are swapped. Now, you can swap this back in MSI's Dragon Center, as well as also change a load of things like your fan profile and CPU overclocks, for example, but the fact that they are actually physically labeled differently means that I was regularly pressing the FN key and doing, trying to do volume adjustments or whatever, and then remembering that I'd actually switched them, that I could use the easier side to do it all one-handed. So it'd be nice if, I don't know, you could swap the actual keys around, but either way, that's available to you. Now that we're down here in the bad section, I want to talk about the storage. Now, the storage itself isn't bad. It's actually two NVMe WD Black SSDs. They're 512 gig models in RAID 0, so it's incredibly fast. But for the sort of price that you're paying for this laptop, as we'll talk about in a second, it's a little bit kind of annoying to only have about 1 terabyte of space total, and especially considering that they've, for some reason, formatted it so that your C drive is about 600 gigs, and then they've formatted a partition of a data drive which is about 400 gigs. So I'm not really sure why they did that, because it's all one drive, but either way, that's what they've done. They do give you an extra M.2 slot available if you want to add extra storage in the future, but it does mean that it's a fairly costly addition instead of, say, just replacing the 2.5-inch hard drive that would normally come in a laptop of this size. But of course, it's up to you if that's actually a downside or not. As is becoming a trend with a lot of these laptops, including even the more lifestyle type laptops, the webcam and microphone that are included aren't all that fantastic. Here's a quick test of this one. So a quick test of the built-in microphone and webcam revealed that they're okay, they're passable, obviously both of which are still much better in your phone than they apparently ever will be in your laptop, but overall it's not too bad, and as I said, passable. And the final note on the bad list is the noise and the temps. Now, the noise is something that you're just going to have to get accustomed to when it comes to gaming laptops, because this really isn't any louder than any other gaming laptop, although it is still quite loud, so do keep that in mind. And also the temperatures is, again, something you're just going to have to get used to, because basically every gaming laptop that I've looked at over the last even couple of years now, especially on the CPU side of things, gets pretty drastically hot. This one hit a maximum of 99 degrees Celsius on the CPU, so certainly on the hot side, with the GPU actually staying well within its power target and therefore keeping itself at about 73 to 75 degrees Celsius, so not too bad there. The good thing though is that none of the heat is transferred up into the keyboard. They've done a really good job of shielding the keyboard from all of the heat underneath, so good job there from MSI. And finally, we have to talk about the ugly. Now, my first point here is something that MSI have clearly tried quite hard to innovate on and to improve on their existing design of, but the implementation of it really doesn't work out all that well. Now, what I'm talking about here is the trackpad, and they've really just gone for a copy of Apple's MacBook trackpads, which are significantly larger than the sort of used to be industry standard. Now, in theory, this would be great because you get more side-to-side sort of availability and easier to go from one side of your screen to the other, but overall, the flexibility and the, I guess, lack of support, especially on the lower sides, really make this a fairly unpleasant overall experience, even if the actual touch sensing is fairly good. And my other point with the trackpad is that the right-click management seems to be fairly broken in terms of consistency. Sometimes I was using the right-click with no problems, and other times I was all the way on the left-hand side of the touchpad, and it would, give me a right-click, and then I'd be all the way to the bottom right, and it still wouldn't give me a right-click, and it'd be very, very inconsistent, which can be quite annoying when you're just trying to use your laptop. And the final note in the ugly category is its price. Now, this isn't new to this category, or even this spec of a laptop, because the Asus laptop that I checked out fairly recently, the Zephyrus, with a very similar spec, is a very similar price. But when you're looking at that sort of money, you really expect the best of the best, and I would like to see a few of the points that I've mentioned in this video kind of addressed or updated in a slightly revised model, especially that trackpad, before I could really see this being worth that sort of money. Of course, if you want the best of the best performance, then at least as far as I understand it, the 17-inch Zephyrus, the competitor to this one, might give you a little bit extra performance there, but you do end up with a very weird keyboard layout, so again, that's kind of up to you. But with that said, if you're planning on picking up a laptop in this sort of category, I wouldn't discount this one, because overall, especially that display, really makes a lot of the trade-offs that it has kind of worth it. The overall gaming experience was fantastic, and generally speaking, while the trackpad is a little bit annoying on the sort of quality side of things, you're generally going to have a mouse with you anyway, so I don't think that it's the complete end of the world. If you are interested in this sort of price range, I would love to hear what you think of the laptop in the comments down below. And if you are planning on picking one up, or you picked up a Zephyrus or anything else in this category, or really anything else, I would love to hear your thoughts down there too. And of course, to answer the question of would I put one of these on my desk, if I was looking for a laptop in this category, then I think I probably would. While I'm not a massive fan of the 17-inch model, the really thin bezels they've gone with here make it actually a bit more of a compact package than usual, so overall I'm pretty happy with it. As I said, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below, and if you want to pick up one of these laptops, then I'll leave an Amazon affiliate link in the description down below if you do want to check it out and see pricing when and where you watch this. And if you want to support the channel, these videos, and me, then you can check out the links in the description down below, whether that's the Amazon and Overclock UK affiliate links, which don't cost you anything, but when you're buying laptops or you're buying garden sheds, anything and all, it massively helps me out. You can also check out the rest of the links like Patreon if you want to support me directly, or you can check out Humble Bundle, which is a great way to get cheap games and support charities, or private internet access, which is a great and cheap VPN. You can also check out the other videos over here, including the Asus Zephyrus laptop review, and you can also check out that subscribe button if you're new to the channel too. Otherwise, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you all in the next video.